Parish, for the history of today's panel, was once known as a hotbed for tough on crime criminal justice policies. And people were housed at the jail who were subject to mistreatment and abuse, unsanitary conditions, and unnecessarily lengthy pre-stays or pretrial stays. So the jail was overcrowded and dangerous, and there was little programming available to help people who were being held for pretrial to further their education or gain job skills. And the Parish County cooperated with ICE, notifying the department that when any undocumented person was arrested, leading to deportations for too many. So conditions at the local jail have improved in the last decade, but there is more that can be done to improve people's quality of life and just make it altogether safer for the community. So all of the candidates running for Sheriff Orleans Parish have a vision of how to make the office better and the jail safer. So today in this forum, we'll hear about their plans for the future. And this November, New Orleans voters will have a chance to vote about who they want their next sheriff to be. So you'll hear from these candidates today, and we hope that this will educate voters on their positions, similarities, and the differences, and really just prepare voters to make the most informed decision at the ballot box. So we'll present each of the panelists their questions for understanding how this will all work today. And at the end, if time permits, we'll end up opening it up for questions and answers. So please, if you have any questions while we're working through this conversation today, put those in the Q&A section below. Otherwise, each candidate will have 60 seconds for an opening and 60 seconds for a closing statement, and then about 60 seconds to give what we deem as in-depth, detailed answers to each question. And there's a multi-part to those questions, so it's about 2 to 3 minutes per question in total. But to introduce our candidates, the candidates we have here today are Quentin Brown, owner of Lawn Care and We the People, We for the People stand, Sheriff Marlon Guzman, current Sheriff of Orleans Parish, Janet Hayes, founder and director of Healing Minds NOLA, Susan Hudson, former independent police monitor for the city of New Orleans, and last but not least, Dr. Christopher Williams, former chief of police at the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. So with that, Demario, I'll kick it over to you to get our conversation started.
Thank you, Dr. Hayward. Before we get to questions, we will begin with short opening statements from each candidate, beginning with Quentin Brown. You each have 60 seconds, then we'll go Sheriff Guzman, Ms. Hayes, Ms. Hudson, Dr. Williams.
Ready? Yes, I'm Quentin Brown. I ran for several races before. I ran for governor, I ran for city council twice, city councilman at large, city council District B, and I ran for sheriff in the last 2014 race. I'm in this race because I'm tired of the BS, just like my sign says, no BS. And I really think these politicians just let us down. And there's an old saying say that you can't open new doors with the old key. And I think the sheriff has the old key and I have the new key. So, and I always was said and always was taught that if a man hasn't discovered something that he would die for, he isn't fit to live. I have discovered that I want to be your next sheriff. I am ready for this job. I have a ton of people ready to come and help me make this process go forward. This sheriff has let us down in many ways, and he's not letting us know this. I'm not really not trying to target him at any kind of way. I'm just letting him know I am a voter. I'm tired of damn crime, and my mayor's not doing nothing. My city council member's not doing nothing, and my sheriff is not doing nothing. So as sheriff, I think elected officials are supposed to get from behind the jail cell and get on the streets and try to solve the crime that's going on. I shouldn't have to say no more. If you tired of BS, you vote for me. But if you want the same old turkey giving, Thanksgiving and Christmas giving turkey, and you don't want to get no loving and no safety, you will go ahead and vote for him. Because I'm really, the man been there 16 years, and I think I found out reason why he kept on winning. He kept on winning because he kept on giving out these turkeys and these hams to these people and trying to buy their votes. This is it. I'm tired of playing with you, man. I'm ready to get down to good. We need to start. I'm gonna stop that jail process right now. Right now, if I get elected, it would be going up to the voters, to the people. The people should vote on if they need another judge, if they need another jail cell. You just push this jail cell on these people. $51 million they have to spend to keep on with this thing. We can build a mental health system with the FEMA money that's allocated for all this and have something separate for that. You said you agreed to do it, so won't you agree to do it and please the people and stop it? I bet you might just get reelected. So won't you just do the right thing and stop letting people like me try to come and beat you and try to win? I'm going to get you. I swear I will get in this race and get.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you. We got to continue with opening statements. We look forward to hearing more from you. Sheriff Guzman, you next.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davis and the Players Coalition for this opportunity. Sheriff, my responsibility is the care, custody, and control of incarcerated subjects, along with being the executive officer of the criminal and civil courts. But my mission is to help people become better when they leave than when they come in. And when I was elected, we had 13 deteriorated, dilapidated facilities, jails. I could have repaired or even retrofitted some of them, but instead I closed or demolished every single last one of them. Today, we have a modern direct supervision facility constructed with the help of FEMA. We have over 900 cameras. We have a day room, laundry, showers, exercise yard on every single housing unit. We employ body-worn cameras, case managers, and other technologies. We have an accredited high school with the Louisiana Department of Education. Students change classrooms like they do in a regular school, and we've awarded 39 diplomas to date. This had a graduation last Friday. To reduce recidivism, we have a day reporting center that helps individuals on probation and parole think for change, get an internship, which leads to a job, and not return to jail. Our reentry programs connected residents with their families at family nights before they were released and provided them with a Louisiana ID and other things so that they would be successful. Our partnerships with the First 72, the Metropolitan Human Services District, Goodwill, University of New Orleans, and the Girl Scouts, along with Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, help them connect with others and prepare them for release. We partner with Tulane University School of Medicine for psychiatric services. Our transitional work program offers offenders the opportunity to earn money before they're released. We have 16 different employers. I hire transitional workers, and I still have a number of transitional workers in our employ. Our volunteer chaplain corps ministers to the spiritual needs. We use positive incentives, special meals and privileges to encourage a clean and safe housing unit. As far as COVID goes, we've vaccinated 100% of our staff, and we've vaccinated 839 residents, and we'll vaccinate 33 more tomorrow. Now, our special needs facility is a needed facility. 89 beds for mentally ill, acute, male and female, a medical clinic, a laundry, and a visitation center for families to connect with their loved ones and for attorneys to visit. It's funded by FEMA.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Not a retrofit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Respectful of time. We're looking forward to hear more from you. Ms. Hayes, you're next.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Davis. It's a pleasure to be here with the Players Coalition. For those folks who might not know me, I'm a fighter. I've fought against police brutality, racism and oppression, environmental injustice, big money in politics, wage inequality, and to end discrimination against people with untreated and undertreated serious mental illnesses. I'm a doer. I get around bureaucracy in order to reach people with help that matters. When bureaucracy gets in the way of standing up programs that I know will help, I go around it and I do it anyway. I have vision. I envision turning Charity Hospital into a one-stop shop, mental health care and research center of excellence. People now say I was right. I'm uniquely experienced where others are only just beginning to study problems. I'm already implementing programs. We don't need more studies. We need to fix problems. I'm independent. I won't swap safety and quality of life for political agendas. And I care. Some people think that caring is enabling behavior that keeps people trapped in their mental and physical jails. When we do nothing to intervene to help people who are incapable of helping themselves, we're only facilitating the slow road to death. We need to intervene to facilitate the road to life. A vote for me is the sensible choice for positive change. We need to work on both sides of the criminal justice system, not only to make our jail better for people who have already come into the system, but also to work to keep people out of the system, period. I'm asking for your vote for sheriff to allow me to begin a process of change, a change for our city that should have started a long time ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Ms. Hudson, you're next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis. And good evening, Players Coalition and Greater New Orleans community. I'm thankful for this commitment to equity and progressive reform in our system, and I'm eager to become a part of that. My name is Susan Hudson. I'm number 6 on the ballot, and I'm running for Orleans Parish Sheriff on a platform of change. And I was glad to see that the sheriff adopted my slogan of the 3 C's of corrections, which are care, custody, and control, because I've been saying that for this entire election period, and I'm glad to see it's rubbed off. But care, custody, and control are necessary to set people up to succeed and not to fail, because I believe in that. But that doesn't happen right now in our system. Well, we need to flip the script. We have to value our employees who face sexual harassment, sexual assault, and a lack of training and proper pay. We have to help incarcerated persons see a light and not exploit them on reality TV shows, but provide real programs and real data showing that these programs work. There's no data right now on any programs at the jail. And let's listen to our community's leadership, because this amazing community can do anything. It's not just the culture, it's the people. They're amazing and they know how to fix the issues in our system. So I ask for your support to bring these values, true care, custody, and control to the sheriff's office and continue the progressive reform in our criminal justice system. Because we can do better, we must do better. And if not now, then when will we ever make it right? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson. Dr. Williams.
Good evening, Players Coalition. I would like to thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Dr. Christopher Williams, a native of New Orleans, born and raised in the Ninth Ward and a proud alumni of the Orleans Parish school system. New Orleans is home for me. It's where my mother raised my siblings and I believe it's one of the best cities in the world. It's known for its culture, its heritage, its food, and most importantly, its music and its art. But we have to keep it safe. We have to keep it safe for the communities. We have to keep it safe for tourism. And most importantly, we have to keep it safe for our children, who are the stars of New Orleans. And that's why I'm running for sheriff of Orleans Parish, to keep it safe. I have a proven track record. I have a master's degree in criminal justice, a PhD in higher education leadership, a BA in criminal justice, and a minor in political science. I'm the only candidate with law enforcement experience and the only candidate who is a veteran with 31 years of armed force services. I've served my country overseas, and I will continue to be a public servant. My platform is centered around the 3R program. First thing we need to do is to restore orders to the Orleans Parish Sheriff Department and get the consent decree removed. Develop an independent project team to conduct an assessment and modernize the jail with the state-of-the-art technology such as breathing and motion sensors apparatus. Why it wasn't done in the beginning, I don't know. Second R, reform inmate training so that they may receive certification to reduce the recidivism rate. And the third R is to reform training of the Orleans Parish Sheriff Department so they can aid NOPD in fighting crime. Look, I applaud my colleagues from using care, custody, and control. But the truth is, you can't have care, custody, and control without restoring, reforming, and reforming.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you.
All right. Looking forward to getting started. Let's get started with that. And thank you all for your opening statements. We'll begin by talking about jail expansion. And as a reminder, try to keep your responses to 2 minutes and under. And we'll begin with this. We do not have unlimited money in Orleans Parish. The city is constantly deciding whether to pay for more services, more incarceration, or more schools? On the table right now is a proposal to enter phase 3 of New Orleans jail expansion, which includes a massive and expensive psychiatric wing. Some critics say that this is costly and unnecessary addition, and that the money should be better used for treatment that can keep people out of jail in the first place. What is your position on this piece of jail expansion? And how do you think that money should be used? And we'll begin with you, Dr. Williams, and we'll be going in reverse order. Dr. Williams, Ms. Hudson, Ms. Hayes, Mr. Brown.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that great question. I don't think there's a need for it. I think the need is to aid these mental health individuals in providing them with acute care in a hospital settings. As previous, I always tell people, mental health comes in many fashions and many forms. The first thing we're not doing at the Sheriff Department, the intake process, it has to be keen. It has to be keen to identify if they have schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, or PTSD. Once that is done, then you have to do an assessment to determine what type of sickness they have, and then provide a treatment program by certified health professionals. Then you also need to educate that individual on his illness and his family as well. You know, the truth of the matter is, I plan on retrofitting that phase 3 to be an educational facility to aid inmates in actually getting them jobs and certifications.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Yeah, I was, as the independent police monitor for the last 11 years here in the city of New Orleans, helping and assisting our community, working on our criminal justice system. I wrote a letter to Judge Lance Afric, who is the judge over the consent decree for the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, and I wrote against phase 3 back then, before I had even thought about running for sheriff. And I'm against it because it's a waste of money and it's a waste of our community's, as you mentioned, very scarce resources. And it's not going to cover that many people. So a retrofit of this brand new jail that's only been open for 6 years is necessary to save funds. And then we take this $51 million and start building back our mental health and substance abuse treatment facilities so that anyone in this community can go and get help outside of the criminal justice system. And you don't have to go to jail to do that. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart. My baby brother came back from the Navy, PTSD. And when I lived in California, when I was overseeing the LAPD's consent decree and helping them to actually comply with it within 9 years, they had facilities like that for people who were troubled and needed help. And so I was able to get my baby brother into those type of programs with a social worker, with housing, with care, and we don't have that here anymore. And we need to build those systems back. So we need to start right now, not building phase 3. Buildings, as our community says, buildings do not give care, people do. And if we build it, they will fill it. I do not want to build that, and I will fight tooth and nail not to build that, and instead to have facilities to treat our community at large. There's a lot of untreated trauma in this community, whether it's from violence or Katrina or a number of other issues. So I want to build facilities that help people, not hurt them. And I do not want to expand the incarceration footprint in this city. I'm absolutely against phase 3.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Hayes.
Thank you. I really appreciate the question because this is my area of expertise. And I just want to mention that what I'm hearing being said here, and first of all, I'm not for a phase 3, but I'm also not for a phase 2 retrofit, which is what Ms. Hudson is proposing, because it's really throwing away families who I help on a daily basis who can't access treatment and care for their loved ones suffering with untreated and undertreated serious mental illnesses because there's nowhere for them to go. we have mental health laws that require dangerousness or grave disability before we can intervene to even begin to help people who can't help themselves. And that system is paltry. All we have are acute care psychiatric beds, but people with long-term chronic diseases need more than an acute care stay in order to build a foundation on which to recover. So consequently, they end up deteriorating and deteriorating and deteriorating until they end up incarcerated in the criminal justice system, at which time maybe we can get them a transfer to the hospital, the forensic hospital, which is a secured facility in Jackson, where they can finally get the long-term treatment that they've been needing all along. But at that point, people are so deteriorated that their chances of recovery become less and less, and they stay in the criminal justice system. It's really heartbreaking. And so for that reason, I don't believe we need a phase 2 or phase 3. I think we do need that FEMA money to stay with the population that it was meant for. There's other money for other populations, but we need a mental health hospital, just like Jackson, only in Orleans Parish, where people can go to get treatment on day one, where they can start to recover from the horrible way that we've treated them because of our mental health laws until they ended up in custody. So I have a lot more I could say about that, but I feel really strongly that that FEMA money should be used to construct a hospital, not a phase 3 and not a phase 2. And we can talk about the money. We can definitely talk about the money because that's where a lot of our money is going. So we need to rearrange how we spend our money so that we can even bring money into or programs for the people Susan's talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown. You're muted, Mr. Brown.
Well, there's a lot of people disapprove of this. And like I said, if I'm elected, if God give me the power to get this race and win this race, I promise the people that I will try to make it best if I can, make it be for the people, for the vote to the people, and let them decide what needs to be done and how the money should be spent. I'm for the people, always for the people. Every race I've reigned for the people. This man has said so many things that he put into this jail. He need to be a damn construction worker instead of trying to be a sheriff. That's what when I retire him, that's what he's gonna have to go do. He's gonna have to go retire and go work for Bro Brothers somewhere because he won't be a sheriff no more after this. Because God has he has spoken to me, and he told me that I will be the next sheriff, or I will be in second place to give you a runoff, to give you a match. Use that money for other things. You can put it into crime. You can put it to putting more police officers on the street. You can put it to put more deputies on the streets that have them in Winn-Dixie and Walgreens and Walmart and use them like that. These officers don't need to be no damn Walmart. They need to be on the streets. So protecting the people of this city. Get rid of this phase, whatever phase 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to do, what you want to call it. Quentin Brown will stop it as soon as I get elected. And you have to May 2022 to get out of office. I'm going to do it in November 14th and try to talk to the governor, anybody I got to talk to, that this project, if this project can be held and be up to the people and let the people decide. Now, if the people decide they want this, I can make use of this. I can get everybody that lost this race that want to come aboard and help me, and we can make a child care center into this place. These people are paying over $1,200 a month child care for these officers. These officers not making the kind of money that they make in a day to pay for child care. We can put a child care center inside there. Nobody's talking about that. Let's make these officers have some kind of way they could save money. We got all these cars that's sitting over there in pound. What we gonna do with all that?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your passion. Chef Guzman.
Thank you. And 2 minutes is kind of a short time, but let me try to get into the facts. First of all, this is not a political issue. This is a human issue. The permit to build the Orleans Justice Center specifically excluded housing for the acute mentally ill, which meant that we had to provide a different facility for the acute mentally ill. That's in the permit. That's indisputable. FEMA has full funding for this project. That's indisputable. That's in an agreement signed by the mayor, signed by the sheriff, and approved by the court. Indisputable. Look, we have to treat those that are the least among us. We should not retrofit. Retrofit is something we've already experienced. The previous sheriff retrofitted a hotel and made it a jail, retrofitted a warehouse and made it a jail. We need to do this right. The money is there to do it right. This is a population that, yes, I wish we could help people with mental illnesses before. Charity Hospital on the 3rd floor doesn't exist. And unfortunately, when the judges remand them to our custody, we have to make sure that we give them the very best care. It's in a temporary facility right now. We need to make it a permanent facility. Mr. Davis, this is not an expansion. I don't know who planted that seed in your head, but it's not an expansion. This is a much needed facility that's also going to include a visitation center where families can connect with their loved ones, where attorneys can meet with their clients. It's also going to include a laundry, and it's also going to have a medical clinic where people can get properly treated. So not an expansion. This is a much needed facility. It's part of the original plan, and FEMA fully funds it, approved by everyone, and it's a human issue.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. Moving on, we'll be talking about the treatment of people in jail, and if we can try to stay inside those parameters on time with your responses. Thank you. One of the sheriff's most important jobs is to ensure the health and safety of people held in Orleans Parish Jail. We should not be putting people back into the community in worse shape than when they entered the facility. One way that people maintain their mental health while in custody is by maintaining ties with their loved ones on the outside. But currently, people being held pretrial must pay a fortune to make a single phone call. Will you try to change that, and how? We'll begin with you, Ms. Hudson.
Thank you very much. Yeah, if you go to our website at susanforsheriff.com, you can see my platform, and a big part of that is to stop extracting wealth from the incarcerated. And we do that by phone calls. The Securus, the phone provider, the owner of that is a billionaire. I think he owns the Detroit Pistons. So people who are living on the margins financially are funding a billionaire to own a basketball team. So we have to stop extracting wealth. The cost that phone systems are a cost of the jail. They are a cost of the sheriff's office. We need to figure them into the budget, be transparent about the budget, which has not always gone down in the past. Been very little information about how the sheriff spends money traditionally. And we need to be detailed about that and put that in the budget. It is a part of the expenses of the jail, and stop extracting that wealth from those who are incarcerated. Stop with the high amount of dollars for commissary. That's too high. For folks to have just a little bit of food comfort, we need to stop doing that. And we need to stop using this phone system to record attorney-client privilege phone calls, which the sheriff's office has done in the past. We have to bring that to an end as well. The Sixth Amendment right to counsel and to have effective counsel cannot be impeded in any way. So we have to stop that. And then once we get COVID under control as a country, we need to get back to free and open visitation. No pays for parking, as it currently in the parking lot there at OPSO. People come see their family members as often as we can let them do that safely. And as long as we have personnel to handle that. One thing that's going on right now, it's a revolving door at the sheriff's office for personnel. People leaving because they don't feel supported, properly trained, and it's dangerous at the jail, which is why it's under a consent decree. So as soon as we can do that, we want to bring back visitation, allow as many phone calls as we can, because we know that families are a part of bringing down recidivism. So we want to help folks. We want to help our community because these are our neighbors in there. So we want to do better for them. So we want to make it as easy as possible for them to stay connected. Thank you.
Sheriff Guzman.
First of all, the calls do not cost a fortune. Another mischaracterization. The calls are, and the cost of the calls are controlled by the FCC. Recently had a reduction in the amount of the call. We provide free video visitation at our video visitation center to the public and to families and to lawyers. And my opponent just doesn't know because we don't charge for parking. We put the parking things up, but there's no charge for parking. And if she ever came around here or knew anything about the jail, she would know that. And we absolutely, positively do not record privileged attorney-client phone calls. I'm a lawyer. I'm licensed by the court, and I have not and will not ever do privileged attorney-client phone call recording. But if you should know better. Now, the cost. Well, let me tell you why it's important to record the calls, because recording the calls has to do with providing whether we can provide it free or not. And there's another issue with providing it free, but we have to record the calls to make sure that we stay safe within the jail, prevent contraband from coming in, as well as to make sure that outside of the jail, that people don't continue to try to run their criminal enterprises. Now, there's been some experiments with free phone calls. You can check with Rikers in New York, found out they didn't have enough phones. They didn't have enough phones because more fights over who was going to be able to use the phone, and we have a limited number of phones. The fiscal note on this is about $2 million. It's about $2 million that would have to go into the budget of the jail at a time when we are strapped for cash, where we just took care of getting stable funding, doubling employee pay. So we'd have to find that from somewhere, deal with all of the fights and everything else that's going to occur because of that ruckus. And look.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Williams.
Well, I'm not in favor of having inmates actually pay for phone calls. I mean, it's not rocket science. 95% of them are low income, coming from low income families, and they just can't afford it. So we need to eradicate the pay for conversation at the jailhouse. And we can actually look at block grants to support the infrastructure of it if we need to. I mean, and again, as far as actually recording conversations, of course, that is a clear violation of anybody's amendments and they constitutional rights. So yes, I would be in favor of getting rid of those fees, and they should be allowed to talk to their loved ones. That is the only way they can converse with the community, with their loved ones. And that phone call is just another expression of love that they would be happy to have, and to include a bigger infrastructure with video monitoring in this day and society should be doable. I mean, we just built $156 million infrastructure, and we don't have that support in it already. Come on, people. It's not rocket science. We should have had that in there to include, I don't understand this last evacuation. Why did they have to leave? And we already built 156 disaster-prone Hurricane 5 buildings. So we moved them, we wasted money moving them. No, let's see if the jail system worked, the generators, the entire building. And that's probably a contract that we can cut out, since we do have $156 million new building.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Mr. Brown.
Yes, I don't think that I got one thing I got to say is true. Well, I was going 3 years ago when I told the sheriff that I was coming after him. I was going to make a video on the premises of the jail and go in there and by the parking lot and film it. And I seen these meter things up, and I say, wait, they pay to park here? And no. And one of the deputies say, no, it's not paid. It's free. So that he is true about that. It's free to park it inside there. But outside of going, if you go across the street, yes, you have to pay. So he's right about that. Now, recording phone calls, well, we have to stop what goes into that jail. But if we train the right people, we could stop it right there at the door where we don't have to train people. So something has got to be done in that department. I would be a own hand sheriff. I'm ready. If I'm telling you, you don't know how really desperate I am to get this job. If I get this job, I'll move in that damn jail and make sure that everything is done right. I'll show you how to be a sheriff that need to be done. And don't talk about this experience and everything, because Warren Raleigh had the experience. He ran for sheriff against Marlon Gusman, and he was the police chief, and he didn't win. So just don't talk about this. This man right now probably sitting here laughing at us right now and probably can't wait till this race is over with. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to tell you one goddamn thing right now. I will cut down on the phone calls it being so high, because I got one of them phone calls from one of my workers that worked for me. And it was like, I think it was like 30 something damn dollars. I said, God damn, where you calling from? You calling from Mississippi, calling from Acapulco some damn well? I mean, the phone, I think it was like 15 to 30 something dollars, something like, I don't know if it's how long we stayed on the phone or whatever. You're shaking your head over there, man. But I'm telling you, this phone bill was expensive. Man, maybe he called 3 or 4 times because I wasn't getting his ass out. But I don't know. I know my phone bill was expensive. And we need to stop it, and we need to cut it low. It only costs, it's free to call people right now on phones and everything. Let's stop that, man. Let's stop getting over on the system, and let's get is in this book. Y'all maybe say something, but let's end this BS that's going on down there, man. And let's put somebody there for the people in the back there.
Ms. Hayes, we're gonna turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I will. The question was, how will you try and change what is going on with the single phone calls? The statement was, one way that people maintain their mental health while in custody is maintaining ties with those on the outside. But currently, people held in pre-trial must pay a fortune to make a single phone call. How will you try and change that?
Right. Well, I think we know that the right thing to do would be to allow inmates to make phone calls for free to whoever they want, whenever they want. This issue about the budget is still a little murky. I do agree with Ms. Hudson that calls between attorneys and their clients should absolutely not be recorded. Due to the lack of transparency in the jail now, it's really difficult to discern exactly what is going on. And so that's why I think we need a leader who is transparent, who has integrity, honesty, and is accountable to voters. I think, we definitely need to take responsibility for problems in the jail and not try to hide them. The only way we're going to make a better system is if we are transparent, and transparency means sometimes we have to show our vulnerabilities, but that's not a bad thing. That breeds trust, and it helps to breed, relationships with community. We have a community problem, and that is, the jail, why people are in the jail, and what we need for a community problem is a community solution. When doors are open and people can see into the jail, then we really know what's going on. It's kind of like nursing homes, when there's no oversight and there's no transparency about what goes on in a nursing home, abuses happen. The best nursing homes are the one where families are coming and going all the time. They're seeing other residents at the home. And if something's going wrong, somebody's going to say something. I'm not saying we should let the community, walk the floors of the jail. But I do think that there needs to be some oversight. And, there's been some talk about having a community oversight committee in the jail. I'm not sure how exactly that would look, but I'm not opposed to that idea either. So again, there's, a lot of bickering going on back and forth between parties about what is really going on and what isn't really going on. I think the best solution is to just elect somebody who's going to do the right job and who's going to be honest and work with community and collaborate, and who also has the expertise. I saw a question in the chat earlier or in the question box, something to do with what I'm proposing for the mental health jail and that it's carceral in nature. Well, people come into the system, they've committed serious crimes. They also have serious mental illnesses. Typically, we send them to Jackson, Louisiana. For anyone that doesn't know, that's a secured facility. They have guards there. People aren't almost wandering back and forth in Baton Rouge and back. So anyways, we need expertise, people that really understand the issues and are willing to learn, and put the learning into, into play. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you. And to be honoring of everyone's time so that we can get through all of this, because all of these topics are very important and we want to make sure we get through them. We're going to try to condense everyone's answer to 1 minute, please. We may go over a little on time, but I do want to be able to get through this because these are very important issues, but you guys can help me by condensing your answers. So how will we improve the provision of mental health services? How will you improve the provision of mental health services inside the jail? And we'll begin with you, Dr. Williams.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
As it relates to mental health, I mentioned earlier that the first thing we need to do within the jail system is to modify their intake process. Currently, the intake process is flawed because it doesn't depict a certain disease that individual have as it relates to PTSD, schizophrenic, bipolar, and any other mental health diseases. So the first thing you have to do is an assessment. The second thing you have to do is provide the proper treatment to that individual, which we will do, provide them with the proper treatment that they need within the jail system so that they may be able to be productive while in there. And the next thing we need to do is actually allow them, once they're released, that their treatment program goes along with them to the community, to the acute care individuals, so they will continue their treatment. And finally, consult with the individuals who are taking care of them to ensure that they take their proper medication, or just advise them that whenever it's time for them to take their medication, go to the hospital, and things of that nature, just to keep them on a daily schedule.
Thank you. Ms. Hudson. You're muted, Ms. Hudson. Let me see if we can get Tech to give you some assistance, Ms. Hudson. Ms. Hayes, you can go, and then we'll come back to you, Ms. Hudson.
Thank you. So as far as mental health care in the jail, I just want to make sure we're clear on what we're talking about in terms of mental health versus mental illness. So mental health care, for all inmates when they're incarcerated are likely going to have mental health issues. In fact, all of us have mental health issues. So we definitely want to attend to people's mental health issues, but it's not always associated with a biological component that also requires medication and physician treatment and that sort of thing. So, and I agree with Dr. Williams that I think what we really want to do is make sure people are getting good evaluations and assessments when they come into the jail, so we can identify exactly what their diagnosis is and what treatment is needed, and then ensure they get that treatment. Now, the population I'm speaking about earlier, people with serious mental illnesses who have committed felony offenses, they're called FIST. It's a very difficult population and very expensive population, which is one reason that I'm proposing that we build a hospital, put it under the jurisdiction of psychiatrists, the East Louisiana Mental Health System of Louisiana, which then gets them out of the jail, which frees up an awful lot of parish dollars that we can then spend on, other mental health programs and services that would benefit inmates, because, it has to be appropriate care. So appropriate treatment, not incarceration. We need diversion deflection. I follow the playbook of Judge Stephen Leifman in Miami-Dade County, who has successfully closed a jail due to his diversion and deflection programs. It's amazing. They have a peer meet people at the door as soon as they leave with clothing, with food. They get them into housing, residential treatment facilities. That's the elephant in the room. And that's going to cost money. Reentry centers are going to cost money. Again, if we take care of the most expensive population in the jail, then we don't even need WellPath, which is a $16 million contract a year. Now we have funding to build reentry centers, to build residential treatment centers. And residential treatment centers, by the way, are the same facilities we need for people before they enter into the jail. So by building this kind of infrastructure, we're building infrastructure for both sides of the criminal justice system. But we need the bill to do it, and I know where the money is.
Thank you. Thank you. Coming back to you, Ms. Hudson.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, my computer locked up. Yeah, I believe in the public health models that are going on right now around the country. I believe that we, first of all, start, and I got this from formerly incarcerated people, because every single part of my platform is from the community. And what formerly incarcerated say are assess people from start to finish. I agree with Dr. Williams, people have to be assessed. But you have to assess all of their needs. Education, mental health, substance abuse. A lot of people are detoxing in the jail and dealing with their mental health diagnoses while in there. What's their familial situation? What's their housing situation? What's their employment situation? What are their needs? We have to assess all of those to begin with. And once we do that, then a public health model of treating it. So while you're there at the jail, we have proper medical and mental health care, not the current provider, WellPath, who's been sued over 500 times around the country, and it's provided substandard care everywhere. We have to have doctors in our community who will have privileges at the jail and treat folks. Faith-based rehabilitation and support, reentry work, familial mediation, whatever our community, whatever the folks in this jail need, we have to meet those needs. And if you want to deal with behavioral issues at the jail, you certainly have to meet those needs. But we'll have people treat them while they're there, but not drop them when they leave. We spend a lot of money on locking people up and ankle monitors and this and that. What about support for people? What about making sure that they have what they need? So we want accredited experts to help with that. And we have plenty of those in our community. And a public health model with partnerships between the community and the jail is the way to go with that. Thank you.
Kicking it over to you, Mr. Brown.
Yes, when we first started all this debate and everything, that was the first thing I have said. I said intake is, we need someone with mental health experience to really evaluate these people when they come into intake and make sure that we assess what is wrong with these people when they come in. We have to ask these people, look, what is wrong with you? What kind of medicine you're taking? Or we have to call a relative. Tell me what your relative is taking. I don't want to have your relatives come in here and get no seizure and anything. There's another thing. I care. What part are we missing? I care about these people. I care about everyone that goes into that jail to make sure they go into that jail and they go in and whatever they have to do, stay in there. If they have to come out and they come out in a reasonable time, they come out and be deductive people and know how to get back into the system and do it right. And let's make sure we train them and see what's wrong with them, because a lot of people go in there and we don't know what's wrong with them. They be really sick. Then we have to get to the medical provider and find out what medicine they own and make sure we get them treated. And that's the first thing we need to do. You don't need a whole minute to go through all this. Now give it to the sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Kicking it over to Sheriff. Thank you for that transition.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, I invite you and the Players Coalition to take a personal tour of the jail so that you can see the transparency and the honesty firsthand. We do at Intake do a comprehensive assessment. We partnered with Tulane University School of Medicine, very best doctors in our community who provide mental health services to the residents here. Residents are assessed, their needs are determined, and our goal is always to put people in general population, but sometimes we have to put them in special needs or acute mental before we do that. And some actually never do make it there. The special needs building is a critical part of this program. The special needs building, if you look at it, it's a clinical setting, no bars, clear fronts, specially designed to treat people with acute mental illness. Everybody who's on board with it, everybody who understands this issue knows that it's the best thing to do. This is not about being political. This is about a human issue where we can help people become better when they leave than when they came in. And when you look at it and you see how much that makes a difference, not to have bars, to have clear lights, to have the mental health professionals and security working side by side, that's our goal. That's how we'll get the best outcomes.
Thank you. Thank you. New Orleans just recently got out from under a federal consent decree, which was put in place after the DOJ found the facility didn't protect incarcerated individuals from violence, and that it did not provide adequate mental and medical health care. What problems do you think still remain despite the fact that the keys have been handed back over to the Sheriff's Department? How would you begin to address those issues as Sheriff? And we'll begin with you, Sheriff.
So thank you. A little correction there. So the federal consent decree is still in place. So an agreement I agree to. We're like 96% compliant with it. What recently happened is that the compliance monitor, part of the techniques that we use to make sure that we could get a stable funding source, which has been achieved, is now not in place anymore. Look, we're very close to being 100% compliant. We're working with the court. We have made significant progress in spite of the pandemic that we've been in for the last year and a half. So we're going to keep working at it. A lot of really good things have happened. We were able to do a bunch of good things like double employee pay, get a stable funding source, and improve the general conditions. So I'm excited about it. We're moving forward, and let's keep going straight ahead with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Dr. Williams. And then come to you, Ms. Hudson. Dr. Williams, you're still muted.
I'm sorry about that. As it relates to the federal consent decree, yes, the sheriff is right. It is still in existence. However, I mean, it's been several years, and I think it has been taking too long just to complete a couple of actions. But I know as soon as I get in there, the first thing I will do to ensure that the jail is safe is conduct Operation Clean Sweep. The second thing I will do is do an internal financial audit. And the third thing I will do is provide a physical security survey to determine the strength, the weaknesses, and the opportunities and the threats. And of course, you guys know that's nothing but the SWOT analysis. Other than that, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Going to you, Ms. Hudson, and then you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I'm the only person in this group that has had actually successful experience in helping somebody comply with the consent decree, as I did at the LAPD. The LAPD had almost 10,000 officers, detention facilities, and was out of its consent decree within 9 years. But here we're 8 years in and not close to compliant. Please take a look at the chat. You read the story for yourself and read the consent decree monitor's report for yourself. The sheriff had the jail taken away from him for 4 years, from 16 to 20, because he could not comply with the consent decree. He got the jail back. The last 2 report cards show the jail is backsliding. It is important that we get somebody with experience in dealing with this consent decree. It's costing taxpayers around 30 to 35 million more per year than before it started. It is important to have somebody who has that experience. But most importantly, it's important for somebody to comply with it. A consent decree is about constitutional law enforcement, and it is the floor. It's not the ceiling. It is the basement. It is the one common standard that we all have to comply with, but it is not above and beyond by any means. And if you get a chance to look at the research about what went on to cause the sheriff's office to go into consent decree, you know that people were not being released on time. The sheriff had been sued because they were being held on average 71 days too long. And then people have died in the jail, including from overdoses. And on average, when they die in the jail from an overdose, they've been there almost 6 months before that happens. So that tells you as Dr. Williams alluded to, you got to take a look at what's going on with your team. But we know that that's an internal and a leadership issue.
Thank you,
So,
Ms.
yeah, I'm sorry. So thank you.
Going to you, Ms. And finishing up with you, Ms. Hayes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I didn't have my turn. Yeah, okay. We have, the first thing I want to do is get the Attorney General in there, and I want to see what is being done and what made this go into this. I had really thought that the man had got it all off him. I guess I was cutting grass too much and didn't realize that he still had that on him. All I got to say is, why is he still making the same amount of money that he's making, and he still don't have full the 100% on there? And then we talk about we talk about monitoring the police department and all that and everything. We need to monitor what all this damn crime that's going on down here. Say that police department. Let's stop that first, then before we try to run some damn jail here. Now, I'm not throwing no shots at nobody now, but I'm just saying, though, that we need monitoring, more monitoring at the police department, because we wouldn't have all these criminals in jail if these police officers wouldn't be arresting them for little bitty charges, bump charges like smoking weed, arresting people for no brake tag, or arresting them for no license plate or no license and stuff like that. We could cut that down in half if you just give me the criminals that kill people and go down there and rapists and people like that. We got to look at all the departments, audit every department, and find out what is going wrong in every department. Then make it public to the people.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Going to Ms. Hayes.
So I think this is an operations and management issue. The jail would not have been under a consent decree had we had good operations and management from the beginning. And I think, as far as deputies are concerned, absolutely need to increase salaries. We need accreditation so that we can increase pay. Where are we going to get that funding from? That again kind of ties into my big picture plan, which is not easy to put into a 2-minute comment. But one of the things is, again, we get the population with serious mental illness who are actually causing a lot of the compliance problems into the hands of people that know how and have the expertise to treat them, even when they don't want treatment. Then you are all of a sudden are freeing up dollars automatically. But then the sheriff's office can also do like what the sheriffs do in East Feliciana, which is to contract for security and meals and laundry. Now you're bringing money into the jail, and we have money. We can do so much more. We can build reentry centers, but we can pay more. You get what you pay for. So, we also we're the reason we have we don't have enough staff. So we have problems with inmate on inmate violence. We have problems with officer on inmate violence. We have problems with all kinds of different things. But, so as part of it is budget, but part of it also, I think, workplace transparency or workplace best practices is transparency demonstrated through communication, respect, honesty, admitting wrongs, and regular feedback. We need to implement that as well. It's operations and management.
Thank you. Transition a little bit and continue to understand just our time constraints. The sheriff is responsible for carrying out evictions. One of many terrible aspects of the pandemic is that more and more people have found themselves unable to pay rent. And now the federal eviction moratorium has expired. If elected, it would be your job to oversee the worst day of many people's lives. How would you change current eviction procedures to better respect the dignity of and help people who are being evicted? And also, what housing policy positions would you use your platform to promote? And we will begin with you, Ms. Hudson.
Okay, thank you. Since I jumped into this race, many members of our community have reached out to me and been educating me about the civil side of the sheriff's office. It's something that we don't think about much, but it's an important one. And as you mentioned, Mr. Davis, it is a growing concern when these moratoriums end. There'll be evictions and foreclosures, which are very important. And so attorneys who practice in this area have been reaching out to me and letting me know that the sheriff has his finger on the scale of justice there. He's not looking out for people whose homes are being taken from them. He's not looking at the procedural issues to make sure that it's fair. He's not trying to help them keep their homes. Instead, almost all the time, the sheriff's office sides with the creditors, but does no homework on looking at whether or not the procedural process has been correct. Due process of law is important before people's property is taken. And sometimes that may happen, but the sheriff's department, and when I'm in charge of it as a lawyer, as I understand constitutional and procedural due process, we will make sure that we look very closely to make sure all of the paperwork is right, all of the procedures are right. And if they're not right, then there's going to have to be a plan B. We will not take people's homes and we will not evict them. We will do the right thing by our community. And we will keep accurate records about what goes on. I was reached out to by somebody who had their home taken for them in foreclosure. And when they went to the sheriff's office to find out how much they owed so they could try to pay it and keep their home, they were told, we don't know. We're not keeping we're not keeping accurate records about that. This is what the community has come to tell me. As the sheriff, we have to be independent and we have to be nonpartisan. We cannot pick one side or the other. We have to be on the side of constitutionality, legality, fairness, and equity.
Thank you. Going to you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you again to Mario for that question. And I do agree with my colleague. Look, we have to provide an additional grace period for these people, particularly the low income one. But most importantly, we can work with the SBA to try and get them low interest loans that'll aid them for an entire year, and to include to even see if we can have an interest-free year loan until they get back on their feet. But I will not be imposing putting elderly people on the streets and people that just don't have the money now. Look, we're in a crisis. I mean, we all are. We've been hit with a pandemic. We've been hit with a storm. And look, that could be one of us out on the streets. So no, we need to work with the business community and find that business pipeline and help them. And as sheriff, that's what I'll do. I won't be putting people on the streets.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Mr. Brown.
Well, I can really say what I think I would do, but I'm not the sheriff right now, and I'm not going to make any promises or nothing because I don't know what's going on. Man, they got some people that really don't know how to manage their money. But I'm just being real. I'm just being for real with you. And when people have to do a job, landlords have to get paid, and people can't be, elderly people cannot be put out on the street. That's a no-no. We got to work some kind of way we can do this and make it where we can have some kind of funding, that we have separate funding and go to somewhere where we got to go to try to get this funding from these private businesses and everything, and see if we can put money together and put that in place for them elderly people that's doing that. Now, these younger people that's out there and everything, throwing money on Gucci, Louis Vuitton shoes and all that, I'm telling you, I'm not kissing no ass. I'm telling you straight up. I'm not being it. I'm not going to be the sheriff that say, oh, this office is not going to put you out. I'm not going to say that because I don't know what is going on, and I will try to help you, but I can't keep it going on in that with that the landlords don't get their money and they can't pay their rent and pay and keep on going. I'm just being for real with you. I'll try my best. I'll work with the new civil, whoever the clerk of cloak is, and that we can do, having programs in place. Then we can work with each one of y'all to try to see. I'll try to get all the extensions that we can do. But if what happens, whatever the state says, that's what the courts decide.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Hayes.
Yeah, thank you. So, for many of us who have lived or live a paid homelessness, this is a really critical issue and one dear to my heart. And so, we have policies and we have laws. Policies are things that we can change. Laws are things that we cannot change. So, actually, we can change laws through voting. So I'd encourage everyone. But, it's a complicated problem and I don't know enough about it either. interested in what Susan is saying, what Dr. Williams is saying. I'm really liking some of these ideas. I mean, as sheriff, I'm definitely going to do the most empathetic, compassionate, and humane thing that I can do to help people who are in this situation with providing them with whatever resources and materials I can, to mitigate that people from becoming homeless. But I do think that, it's difficult to get around a law because when we're inviting a lawsuit. But however, also I would urge people to look into the assessor's race. It's not our race, but I do know a landlord who he has tenants with disabilities and they live in half a double shotgun. And because because of the structure, because of the classification of the home, he's being the assessors, he's being overtaxed essentially, and so landlords are passing those costs on down to tenants. So anyway, it's a complicated problem. Again, I don't know enough about it right now, but I'm definitely going to approach it in the way I approach everything, with a heart of compassion and empathy for those who are impacted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. And kicking it over to you, Sheriff.
So thank you, Mr. Davis. Look, first of all, my opponent should have done a little more homework. In Orleans Parish, the sheriff is not the person responsible for the kind of evictions that you're talking about. That's done by the constable of First City Court and the constable of Second City Court. They're the ones that are responsible. They're the ones that do the evictions. Now, what do I believe in? I believe that we ought to have a good, affordable housing program in the city. Something that helps people have access, where we create affordable housing. And I think we also need to look at how we can better improve our tax structure so that we are not just levying taxes based upon the last sale of property in a neighborhood. We have too many of these short-term rentals that are driving up the price of value of the home and then causing taxes to go up, which I think leads to some of this increased rental cost and thereby evictions. But evictions in Orleans Parish are done by the constables. The sheriff is responsible for our foreclosures. That's after a creditor has taken someone to court for not paying their mortgage. That's a lot different than what you're talking about, which was a rental eviction.
Thank you. And I am aware that we're a little bit over time, but these are very important issues. And I think when we're playing football games, when we have a little overtime, people stick around, so we can stick around for a little bit longer with these very important issues. And so, but I do want to be respectful for everyone's time. The last question that we would have is in regards to Jailbirds. This September, Netflix released a season of Jailbirds, filmed at the Orleans Parish Jail. The trailer states, feuds, flirtations, and toilet talk go down among the incarcerated women at the Orleans Justice Center in New Orleans in this gritty reality series. I'm going to ask these three questions, if you can touch on all of these. Do you think it was appropriate to let a film crew in and make a show about people held at the jail? Do you think it was a wise use of resources? Do you think it exploited the people who are supposed to be under the care of Sheriff's Department? And we'll begin with you, Sheriff.
Thanks. Look, when we first were approached by this, we thought we were going to be able to cast everyone in a positive light. We specifically said, look, don't do any staging, don't do any antics. We have a direct supervision facility, and we closely monitored it. I think that it's important for people to know, just like I invited you, Mr. Davis, and the Players Coalition. I want people to know what's going on here. And once we got wind that and understood that they wanted to do something that was not accurate or portraying what we did, we immediately shut it down. We shut it down March 5th and did not let them do any more producing. Everybody who was in it agreed to do it. There was no compensation paid to me or to anybody else. Look, looking back on it, I probably would not have done it, knowing what I know now. But the opportunity to cast things in a positive light, to let people see the difference in the type of facility that we had, that was a positive approach, is why we did it.
Thank you. Going to you, Dr. Williams.
Let me applaud the sheriff for realizing that it shouldn't have went forward. I wouldn't have done it unless my house was clean. I mean, by the system being under the consent decree, that was my only concern. And most importantly, when you look at that reality show, you somewhat think it may have exploited those individuals or taken advantage of them while they're in the system. But I wouldn't have done it. And I don't think the citizens would have liked it anyway. So again, thank you, Sheriff, for admitting that in hindsight, you would have thought again. All right.
Mr. Brown.
When he did it already, and he got his publicity. It's election time, and it went enough to where he got enough to where say Marlon Gusman for sheriff, and everybody knew what to look at and everything. I wouldn't have did it if I would did something like that. It would have been something positive. It would have been something that really, well, I would have been there, not my people. That's why I say you now have the right people in charge. If he would have had the right people in charge, or if he would have been there and not trying to go out and fundraise and get money, he probably would have watched everything that was going on there. And if I would have been right there personally, made sure they don't explode them no kind of way bad. They would have been showing them how to get their degree, or they would have shown them how to do trades in there, or they would have been showing them how to do. It wouldn't have been all kind of bad stuff that would have happened. So I don't really think I would have did it at all, really, because really that's their private life that's going on in there and everything. And shoot, you might have tons of lawsuits or something like this. So I don't think I would have did it, and especially not around election time. You know what people doing it for.
Ms. Hudson. Might be having some technical difficulties. I'm gonna come to you, back to you, Ms. Hudson. Let's go with you, Ms. Hayes.
Hey, thank you. So was it exploitive? I believe that it was. Was it appropriate? I believe that it wasn't. What was the third part of your question? Exploitive, appropriate, and there was one other thing.
Would you have did it?
Oh, no, absolutely not. And
appropriate use of resources.
Sorry, resources?
Yeah. Was it appropriate use of resources?
No, I mean, no, I just don't think it was a good idea to begin with. And I'm kind of a family values person, so it's not something that you have even have entertained to begin with. I really think that, we're trying to build a safer and healthier city. And by, doing this kind of exploitive media show, it's not helping us get to, I think, where we want to be as a city.
Thank you. And I think we lost Ms. Hudson for a little bit due to technical difficulties. Okay, so we'll be wrapping with that. You guys will each, for the conclusion, have 60 seconds for a closing statement. We'll go in reverse order from the opening. So we will begin with you, Dr. Williams.
Hey, thank you guys again for allowing me to speak. Look, I really believe we can mitigate the culpability of prisoners returning to the jail system by providing them with meaningful jobs and training. But in order to do that, we have to have programs in place first, So I have the expertise. I'm the only individual with law enforcement experience, a 2-time chief of police, to really get this job done. I often tell people, look, would you get a plumber to fix your car? Well, this is my thing. Attorneys belongs in courtrooms. That's why we have this problem that we're at today. We put in the wrong people in the wrong places. We need a law enforcement, corrections, subject matter expert to get this job done. If not, we're going to yield the same results. I'm number 7 on the ballot. I ask for your support and your prayers. Dr. Williams, God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. And we'll be kicking it over to you, Dr. Hudson. Ms. Hudson, for your closing statement. You'll have a minute. And if you want to address the last question, you can. I'll give you a little extra time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Davis. First of all, I was just shocked about seeing that whole Jailbirds docu-series. When you talk to the public defender and defense bar, none of them knew their clients were being interviewed, and that put those people at real risk. But also, what about the victims of their crimes? And they're showing on TV being glamorized and so on and so forth. Just a bad idea, and exploiting those women. If 80% of the people in a jail have mental health or substance abuse issues, are you truly doing them a favor by exploiting them and showing that? Well, I have a better idea for a reality series. It's a reality TV show about a sheriff who does the right thing, complies with the consent decree, treats people with respect, and provides them with the resources that they need. I'm Susan Hudson. I am the reform candidate for sheriff. As a former prosecutor, defense attorney, assistant city attorney, and the former independent police monitor for this city, and a proud Tulane law graduate. I have the experience, skills, and knowledge to comply with this consent decree after 8 long years. This would be my 3rd in which I've helped a law enforcement agency comply. And remember, we got into the mess we have in our criminal justice system because it is too law enforcement related, is too prosecutorial related. We have to have a community-led approach to reform. And that is a progressive approach that our community has voted for over and over again over the last couple of years. I was part of the People's DA Coalition. I was part of COVID policing coalitions in which our community sought to have more control over how law enforcement operates in this community. I'll be the next phase of that. And I'll treat employees with respect and incarcerated people humanely. It's time to have a good steward of public funds. And as sheriff, I will be transparent and accountable with lawsuits, contracts, the budget, and data. We know that this unjust system is high. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll go to you, Ms. Hayes.
Great, thank you. I'm in the middle of the 5, so I never get to, my position is always stagnant. Anyway, so I really appreciate this forum, and you have a very intelligent base of membership, and it's really difficult to put a lot of platform ideas into a 2-minute comment. So I do encourage people to go to my website, and we'll be fleshing out my platform there moving forward. But again, I'm a fighter for people. I'm an advocate for alternatives to incarceration, homelessness, reoffense, and chronic mental illness and addiction. I'm also an innovator, a community leader, and a problem solver working for meaningful change. I'm on the board of numerous organizations, all focused on untreated and undertreated serious mental illness for people who are too impaired by their cognitive disorders to make good decisions for themselves. My professional career is focused on removing these policy barriers to reduce incarceration and homelessness, but also reduce wasted spending and senseless revolving doors. Leadership starts at the top, and when leadership is corrupted, the whole system is corrupted. Reform starts with a clear vision, and I have that vision. I have the passion, the will, and the know-how to drive through real, meaningful, outcomes-based solutions for a better jail and a better and safer city. So I appreciate if you would vote for me so I can be your voice in government. And I'm number 5 on the ballot. Janet Hayes, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Yes, I want to take 5 seconds to tell everyone this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and make sure everyone go get their screening because that's very important. And another thing, you see the sign that says, it say no BS, Quentin Brown for sheriff. I have my shirt here say Noah won't bow down. That means New Orleans citizens will not bow down to these criminals. As sheriff of this city, I promise you, I will fight the crime that's going on. The elected official is a sheriff, and that is the person's sheriff's job, to try to put more officers to help these police officers on the street and try to get the people that's police officers that's in there, that's been there 25 years waiting on a pension, put them on the street and put some more officers back into that jail cell so we can protect these people, get these people and get some protection on the street. The whole goddamn thing is about crime. I'm a member of the New Orleans, Louisiana Sheriff Organization, and half of all the sheriffs around Louisiana talk about what are you going to do about crime? What we going to do about crime? We're going to stop them. We're going to take our city back. If I'm elected November 13th, New Orleans will go down as Quentin Brown, the gardener, takes down the sheriff, and take down the criminals. Now, all this experience, you had a sheriff run for him before. Against him, he lost. Sheriff Fody. You had a police chief running against him before. He lost. Now put a regular citizen that have compassionate and willing to fight this crime on and get rid of it. I'm Quentin Brown. I'm number 3, and I'm tired of bullshit in New Orleans.
Mr. Brown. And finish with you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Thanks to Player Coalition. And I reiterate my invitation to you and the Players Coalition to come and see firsthand. You know, we're completely transparent. You can check my budget submissions to the city, as well as my audit that we do every year to the state of Louisiana. We don't record attorney-client phone calls, but we have to know who is on the phone. And we do it for the inmate safety and the safety of the public. I took the nation's 8th largest prison system, a sprawling prison complex where more than half of the inmates were state sentence inmates, and transformed it into a modern direct supervision facility with a recreation yard, laundry room, visitation, day room, program and group rooms on every housing unit. We more than doubled the pay of the deputies working here and increased training, established reentry programs, a day reporting center, partnered with Goodwill, Metro Human Services District, the Girl Scouts, the First 72, Tulane universities to provide programming and treatment for our residents. We're 97% compliant with the consent agreement. Where the sheriff's office was historically underfunded, we now have a stable funding agreement with a dedicated millage for some of the costs. We must complete the special needs facilities so that we can bring the best care to the least among us, the mentally and medically ill, and provide for an expanded family visitation center in a laundry. I have the experience, qualifications, and vision to get this done. I'm number 4, and I ask for your vote on November 13th. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff. Again, I want to apologize for going over on time. I want to thank all of our candidates for sticking with us. I know it was probably a strain on your schedules. I really want to thank you. Thank you all our participants for sticking with us. With that, we conclude the discussion. Thank you each candidate for attending, and thank all of for coming and participating, and more importantly, for being interested voters. Continue to engage and be sure to vote. The deadline to register to vote is October the 23rd. If you are doing it online, early voting starts October 30th and runs through November the 6th. Election day is November the 13th. Don't forget to show up. And with that, thank everybody. Go out and vote.
Thank you so much.